actually, John reminded me that actually the school went from performance at 40% to 98% in 4 years. Okay, and that didn't just happen. That happened because everybody played their part and had an absolute belief that every child in that school could and should achieve, and that their social background was not a barrier to their learning. That in actual fact, it should be something that they were proud of. It was their narrative, and actually what we arranged was that we could not sort out their social problems. We were not social workers. And so we had at the door of the school a suitcase. And actually what we said to the children was that, and some of the situations that they'd encountered through the night with, you know, drug busts and whatever, we could do nothing about that. But what we couldn't have was the anger that generated towards staff and to other children. So what we would say is, there's the suitcase by the door, put the anger in the suitcase. And I used to go to the suitcase during the day and, you know, metaphorically pick out the anger and the notes and then have a discussion with them. But I was absolutely honest. I couldn't do anything about their social background. What I could do was to actually give them some chance and choice in their lives through their engagement with high-quality teaching and learning.
Tell us the story about the boy who said he learned by listening.
Louis was an exceptionally bright child. His dad was Afro-Caribbean and about 6'4", and his mum was from Bristol. And I never saw his dad. I saw his mum a lot, who was really, really struggling. And at one point, and his behaviour was really going out of control. And at one point, I said to her, I have got no influence over your child at all. The person that's got influence over your child is that 6'4" guy, your partner, and I need him in this school to talk to him. Okay. There'd been a violent history. His uncle and his father was injured, but his uncle was assassinated over a dodgy drugs bust. But actually, his dad wouldn't come in. She said to me, he will not come into school. He hates schools. It's been a bad experience for him. He will not come in. So I said, give me his mobile number. So actually, I just constantly texted him and said, I need you to come into school. And actually, eventually, he turned up in the doorway, and I said, who do you think has the most influence over your child? Me, 5'4", white woman, you, 6'2", black guy, you're his dad. Let's talk to him. And that was the turning point. That was the turning point in Louis's life, and Louis has continued to succeed, and I'm sure will be a pride to his dad and to his mum. But it was actually, it's what are the levers that I can actually pull, and what are the levers that I'm limited in terms of my influence, and searching out for the ways to get to children's energy, basically, to learn. And I do believe that no teacher gets up in the morning, or head teacher, wanting to fail. I actually do believe they want to succeed, actually just don't know what to do, basically. The most important, I think the most valuable change that was made was an honesty about expectations. Because when I took over the school, I looked at the children's work, and it was absolutely shocking. The books were dirty, they were torn, there was no respect. There was no respect for anything. It was open warfare, basically. And so I think the first lesson was, in a sense, those staff had an assumption because it was a bad area, there were low expectations of those children. That area, considering where I was brought up, which was the northeast of England, was like Hollywood. So my saying, actually, this is a great area compared to where I've come from. And actually, the pivotal thing in my life was a belief in education and learning. And actually, I want to challenge your belief in these children to learn. And once we started that honest conversation about their beliefs around children, that was then, in a sense, a lever too. So why is the quality of teaching and learning so poor in this school? And actually what that came down to was none of these teachers, whatever age they were, had actually been taught to teach a child to read. What they were doing was teaching reading like they'd been taught to read. And they were conducting their classrooms like they'd conducted classrooms when they'd been children. So actually, that's the learning culture that we created, was around what are the learning experiences in this school for children, and being clear about that. It was. Yeah. We were stuck with, it was a Victorian building. It was on 3 different levels. All right. So when Ofsted came in, they just couldn't believe that there was a primary school that inhabited what was the side of a hill, basically. So it was on 3 levels. So to manage it was very, 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 very difficult. And we didn't have any extra money, and we inherited a budget that was in a difficult situation. But I've never believed that money should inhibit school improvement. And so we did, the first thing we did was to actually carpet the school, because that created more learning spaces. The children could actually sit on the floor with adults and learn, and they could learn to work in groups by sitting. So we doubled the size of the space. The acoustics were made better by the fact that we'd carpeted the school, and that had an immediate effect on the behaviour. It was just calmer and quieter. So yeah, it was a very difficult school to manage, but actually the staff made the very, very best of it. And those little photos that the camera, that was every single child in the school and every single adult that was involved with those children actually talked about what their own target, so I would put what my learning target was for the next 6 months, and actually what I hoped would be happening within the next 5 years. And so we never changed that. It only happened once a year. Everybody was photographed, all of their targets were there, what they hoped to achieve. It was a constant source of being able to go up and talk about what they wanted to do and where they're getting there. So we did the best we could with horrible buildings, really.
Trish, how did you tackle numeracy?
We tackled the numeracy by, again, looking at did actually teachers know how to teach maths. We looked at the data, and actually there were peaks and troughs. So there was very good maths teaching going on in the school, and there was appalling maths teaching going on in the school. So we utilised, the young guy with the glasses was really spot-on mathematician. We utilised him to work with every member of staff. And at that time, we had a national curriculum that was coming on board with programmes of study, which gave us some direction around how pupils would proceed from one stage to another. But we used data forensically. And at that time, we didn't have a lot of data that came through the computer. We used our own data around pupil performance. And we were tactical in terms of, to improve maths, we needed to know what every child was actually achieving, and were there groups of children that we could significantly accelerate in order that the whole class moved forward. So that's how we achieved the pace of performance that we did over 4 years, was absolutely pinpointing where every child was at in terms of maths and English.
Okay, Trish, thank you very much indeed.